One Piece chapter 1078. Oda. I did not see this one coming. Okay, so York is the one that did the shooting. Oh man, this is good. This is good. I did not expect that right there. Like, wow. And it's so ironic because like York is like, I want to be one of the celestial dragons and there only needs to be one Dr. Vegapunk. However, here's the problem. CP0's job was ultimately to assassinate all the Vegapunks. So York safe, York goes through and kills all the other Vegapunks and takes them out. It's still gonna be one of those things where you're still a Vegapunk. They are going to take you out. I don't think they're going to make an exception for you. This is good. Like, the plot definitely is thickening here. Now, backing things up, we open up the chapter where you have Stussy continue to give the information and she's talking to Sentomaru, and it's one of those things where she's like, look, like the world government, they're hell-bent on this plan to have Dr. Vegapunk taken out, and this is going to be worse than what you saw at O'Hara because it's one of those things where they're sending Kizaru and they're sending all these ships here because at the end of the day, Egghead is different because Egghead not only has Dr. Vegapunk meddling in some very dangerous research, the same research that got O'Hara taken out, but also it's one of those things where you guys actually have a means to defend yourself. So imagine what they did to an island of researchers and picture that on steroids because you guys can fight back. They are going to make an example out of you. And it's at this moment when Sentomaru hears all this, he basically tells everyone there, like, look, you have any doubts now? They're not going to come here and just take out Vegapunk. They're going to kill everyone here. There will be no survivors. Look at what they did over there to Nico Robin's people. They killed everybody. They are going to kill everybody here. No prisoners. Get out of here. And that's when everyone takes off running, but it's too little too late because we know that they are on their way. This is interesting. And so what I like here is that Frankie, because he's only had one half of his body actually turn into stone, Frankie is still able to talk his trash to the Boa Hancock Seraphim, and it's one of those things where he's like, look, you need to turn them back to normal. He's trying to talk reasoning to her, and when that happens, we see the temper of this Boa Hancock clone immediately go off, and she is rampage. But before we can see too much of what it is that she's doing, we shift over and we have a moment where Atlas and Nico Robin are talking, and we see Nico Robin in full-blown survivor mode because she's like, look, like, at the end of the day, we know for certain that the Seraphim are fighting. We don't know why. Nami's screaming, so it's certain that somebody like Sanji's going to be there in order to take care of her. However, while everyone's battling it out, something may happen to Vegapunk in the meantime. We need to locate Vegapunk. Basically, Nico Robin's like, look, our chances of survival might be higher the closer we are with Vegapunk. So I like that you're seeing Nico Robin take a little bit of charge here. And she kind of has to, because like Chopper, even though Chopper's gotten some more life experience and he's a little bit wiser, Chopper at the end of the day, when he's not fighting and he's not treating people, he's a bit of a liability. So I can kind of see why Nico Robin had to get there. And as that's going on, we got Sanji showing off the power of love, or he's stopping one of the attacks and he's continuing to be in Super Sent mode, though I will say that was a really badass panel. And what I like here is that as that battle's going on, you got Luffy and Zoro holding off the attacks, and Luffy's like, wait a second, where did S-Hawk go? And that's where we get the narration from Rob Lucci, where he's like, look, like, he's changed his assassination priority. He's leaving the more troublesome people to this Kuma Seraphim. And it's one of those things where he just says the quiet part out loud. He understands, like, I can take care of the more troublesome combatants later. And one way I can do that is by taking out some of their allies. And the moment that Zoro hears this, Zoro takes off, and Luffy looks over at Kaku. And Luffy, like, people be saying Zoro racist, Luffy racist. We just gonna have to say this one, you know, because like Luffy has one of his you all look alike moments, because like Luffy looks over at Kaku and he's like, hey, Usopp, go get him. And it's like, wait, Usopp's like, oh, because Kaku's got the long nose. It's like, dog, Luffy, are you serious right now? But what I like here is that Luffy covers it up with some absolute humor. He's like, look, if you don't go after him now, this dude is going to get lost. That was kind of funny to see that, man. And we double over and we see Luffy fighting against this pacifist slash Kuma Seraphim, and you have Rob Lucci saying like, Luffy, you're never gonna get that way. You're never gonna get far fighting that way. Start using your head. But it's one of those things like the way that Luffy fights, Luffy kind of has to actually feel out the combat as the combat's going on. That's just kind of Luffy's MO right there. There's no rhyme or reason to the way that Luffy fights. Luffy just kind of does what makes the most sense to him in that moment, and things just kind of work out. And what we end up seeing is that like whatever Bonnie has seen has her in absolute tears, and that's a very well done panel. I really like that extra shading there, like the inking where you can't even see her face, she's just covered in darkness. I really want to know what she saw, but the narrator is talking to us saying that the record of the events before the day of the famous Egghead Incident, the events were set in motion 3 months ago, and we find out essentially that CP5 was dispatched to learn the truth about Vegapunk because someone told them that Dr. Vegapunk was doing research on the Void Sentry. Looks like that more than likely was the rat that we had who was trying to betray them to become a celestial dragon, so York. And they just continually get updates from York. I'm assuming it's York, but essentially the elders make the decision and they send Kizaru there, they send one of the elders there, they're expecting a war, and the moment that Luffy shows up on Egghead, it throws all their plans out. Now that explains why Kainu just basically lost his top the moment that he learned that Luffy was on his way there. And the narrator says that the resolution of this incident the following day would inflict a level of shock that the world never saw coming. And we end off with that huge cliffhanger where York is like, I'm going to be one of the celestial dragons. There only needs to be one Vegapunk. Like, I kind of look at this and it's one of those things where like you can tell like Oda's setting up something big, and even though this might be a short arc, this has the potential to actually be a long arc because there are way too many plot threads. Like usually like when you start getting like all the Straw Hats broken up and you start seeing like Oda like diagram where the different fights are going, it's like, okay, this is gonna wrap up soon unless it's something like Wano where it takes forever to get through the different fights. But this feels like it's going fast, but this also feels like it could slow down because I really feel like we're about to start getting info. Like just based off of how everything's flowing and the different pieces that he has set up, this really feels like this could be a situation where we get a massive info dump in the middle of the action that's going on because there are too many pieces moving. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with York because again, it kind of feels naive that she thinks that she can be a celestial dragon. We know exactly how the celestial dragons are. It's one of those things where I really feel like she's setting herself up to get betrayed. I really feel like she's setting herself up to get betrayed, but I do want to know from you guys, this is my chapter question. Do you guys think that York was being potentially naive and thinking that things would go exactly the way she planned? That if she kills Vegapunk and becomes the only Vegapunk, and because she showed her loyalty to the world government, that they will make her a celestial dragon? Or do you think that they're going to take the approach of she's the fruit from the same poisonous tree? What's to say that she doesn't become another Vegapunk in the future and they just move to eliminate her? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, have an awesome day, guys.